Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your Sun in Capricorn and Cancer rising. These two signs are opposing signs. They are also called complementary signs because, truth be told, they're complementary in the sense that their elements are compatible. You're talking about the Sun in Earth and the rising sign in water, and they're both cardinal signs. So the rising sign is something that is kind of like what we see first in a person, and it's even like literally maybe their physical appearance, because the ascendant or rising sign is the cusp of the first house of the self. So when you're talking about Cancer, Cancer is ruled by the moon. So that means that this would be your ruler, the moon. So what does it mean when the moon is your ruler? It means that there's a lot of fluctuation. The moon represents fluctuation in astrology, which means changeability. But also emotionally, the moon is our emotions, and this can mean that the person is rather moody. And having the sun in Capricorn doesn't like lighten that up. You could look at the moon sign, your moon sign. If your moon sign is in something like Gemini or Libra or a fire sign, maybe you have more pizzazz and positivity emotionally. But this combination could lend itself to a person who may be feeling quite weepy, even sometimes, especially as a child. I said the Cancer rising can be the crybaby. And I say that it's kind of like it sounds so harsh, calling somebody a crybaby. But I'm just thinking back to when I was young, and there were always like those kids that they would cry at a drop of a hat. And the reason, and I always sensed that there was like this feeling of embarrassment, shame that was connected to it. Like not just like a shame that they had a tendency to cry, but just that like when they felt like they were being scrutinized or something along those lines, that kind of social anxiety or whatever you want to call it would cause them to kind of express it through crying. That was my experience with people like that because of the extreme sensitivity. But the interesting thing about Capricorn is it is a hard-boiled, what I would call a hard-assed sign. So talk about this bipolarity. I mean, it really is like very different. When somebody has Cancer rising, they may be hypersensitive. If you think about the symbol of Cancer, it's the crab. The crab has that hard shell. It has these claws. So it does have a hard part about it that is external, but inside it's very tender. And because Cancer is the ruler in astrology of the fourth house of home and family, it's also the sign of the mother. You think about a mother, and of course we're talking about the good ones, that is protective of their child, like the mama bear type of vibe. Well, while that's true, there can be self-protection with Cancer as well, and that can translate into hypersensitivity, where the person, it's almost like perceiving themselves as being under attack on a regular basis. And if, this combination is pretty, I would say, would lend itself to shyness. So if you have the moon also in like a feminine sign, like an earth sign or a water sign, then that could really be introversion. But I just want to say that introversion and shyness to me are not the same things. You can be an introvert and not be afraid to talk to a stranger you just like to be alone, or you're just, you're just kind of like into quiet activities. And then you have people who are very like, it's almost like a phobia where they can't, they feel so self-conscious when they're around other people that they can't speak. They feel like this sense that everybody's looking at them, and that could be very um, debilitating, sometimes when it gets to be to the extreme. So there might be something of that as well, and that can create a lot of neurotic tendencies within a person, because the first house, it's like you putting yourself out there. And if you can't do that, then you may be very inhibited. You know what I mean? So that could be going on. But in terms of physical appearance, this could be a person who has a moon-shaped face. An example I always give is Linda Ronstadt, whose sun is in Cancer. I don't know what her rising sign is. I should do her chart. And who knows? Maybe her rising sign is, there's a good chance it wouldn't be in the same sign as her sun sign. But sometimes you will see the physical characteristics in maybe the sun or even the moon. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the rising sign. These inner points can be kind of like interchangeable to some degree, that you will see similar themes, but they do play out in subtly different ways. So with somebody who has this kind of moon face, and also being a water sign, the tendency to retain water, that could also indicate that they feel heavier than they really are. So sometimes that person may think that they're overweight when really, and they could change. Like, you might see them 2 days later and it's like they dropped 50 pounds when it's really only, maybe it's just 5 pounds of water weight, but that it totally changes their body shape, or at least it alters it to a noticeable degree. But if a woman has that kind of face, another one who is a Cancer is Selena Gomez. And I noticed that she has that as well. I think she really tried to diet to make her face look more like oval. But see, that's a problem, because if you have that type of, that's just part of your body, and you just tend to have that shape of a face, then you might over diet and be like too thin in the rest of your body. Sometimes I've heard that expression of some celebrities, that they have lollipop heads, where they have their head is bigger than their body because they're trying, it's almost like they want to lose weight in their head, because because they have that kind of round face. And so they restrict, they food restrict, and their bodies become underweight, but their face stays like pretty much the same, and that can create, that can be problematic for their self-image, because they might just feel that they're overweight when they're really not. So, but another thing that was mentioned in a book that I read, which I thought was pretty funny, is that people, and I think they were talking about Cancer rising, but I think it could be true about the sun as well, is that they can have a strange gait or way of walking that is similar to a crab. And I think the reason why is because they may have bodies with very long torsos and and their legs, that means that their legs are a lot shorter. So when people have that kind of body type, it's like it's top heavy. And also, I think that Cancer rules the breasts or the chest area. I might be wrong about that, but I think it does. So that might also, if that person has, like a woman who has bigger breasts, and so it's like kind of top heavy, and then they have very like kind of stubby legs or something, the way that they walk is going to be top heavy, but also like the crab, kind of shuffling. Their gait is kind of shuffling like a crab. So I don't know if that's true for any of you, but that could also be what's going on. And there's going to be probably in the expression, there's going to be a dreaminess, there's going to be a gentleness. Maybe there's a hysteria sometimes where when the person is in that certain mood where their emotions are really keyed up or they're really upset about something, where they're kind of like just overly emotional. That could certainly be the case, but there might be times when they're almost like silly, or what we would call giddy. It's like they can run the gamut of emotions, and they're wearing their heart on their sleeve because it's on the ascendant. So it's really there for everyone to see. But when somebody gets to know you better and they see that Capricorn side of you, that can really blow their minds, because they don't realize how much you can actually shut it down, how you can shut down the emotions. And some people, now let's say you have Venus in like Sagittarius. If your sun is in Capricorn, Venus is Sagittarius is adjacent to Capricorn. Let's say you have Venus in Sag, and let's say maybe you have Mars in Libra or something like that, and you have like this social side to yourself. Maybe in love you tend to be kind of freewheeling. You're not taking it too seriously. You may attract those water signs because that's on your ascendant, or by extension, the earth signs. And when they see how you behave, like you have that side to yourself that is very interested in social situations, like having Mars in Libra. I'm talking about something like that. Or even Mars in Aquarius. You might be very interested in, socializing a lot. And with Venus, that can also be socializing. Maybe that's in Aquarius or Sagittarius. They might kind of scratch their heads and say, is this person really playing me? Are they really this Cancerian type that's very interested in being so caring and devoted and things like that? They don't seem like it now, because the sun is in Capricorn. Maybe the person's a workaholic. Maybe the person breaks dates because they have to work late, or they have some kind of social commitment. They can't be there when you want them to. And they might be like, they might think that you're not being genuine when it's all part of you. So it can get kind of complicated that way. Even though, like I said, Capricorn and Cancer are complementary signs, and they both are very family oriented and kind of old fashioned, or we would say like traditional, because old fashioned might sound like it's a criticism, but actually like traditional. And so it can get kind of interesting with those Venus and Mars placements, or even Mercury. Mercury can be how you express yourself, and you might seem very caring, and then you have Mercury in Sagittarius, and you put your foot in your mouth on a regular basis, and you piss people off on a regular basis. This is coming from somebody with Mercury and the Sun in Sagittarius, so I'm telling on myself, you could say. So in terms of Capricorn, because it is your sun sign, you do tend to want the traditional type of family life. You might start late because the sun is ruled by Saturn, and that can make the person delay whatever it is that they want. Maybe you don't get married or until you're 35 or something like that, or even later, and have children later. But you tend to want that kind of traditional life. Yes, there are outliers, but I'm just talking about traditionally, or, the tendency is going to be there. And the type of careers that somebody with the sun in Capricorn may go for, one of the big ones I can think of is architecture. And having Cancer rising can make you interested in real estate, because Cancer rules the fourth house of home and family, and home can mean actual literal buildings, so I could see that. Capricorn can work in any kind of place where there is a structure present, like a government. There's a pecking order. I mean, it can run the gamut. I mean, you could even work in a school system or something. But usually, because these are both cardinal signs, so you tend to be somebody who is much more of a take charge type of person, and therefore you may gravitate towards positions of authority. And that could include, like, if you're in a school system, being in the administration rather than a teacher, where you're kind of creating the policies. And same thing in government. Rather than being that worker in a cubicle, you might be somebody who is creating those policies or supervising others. But it can be in different areas. It might even be in the health, definitely in the healthcare field, because you have that nurturing part of yourself from Cancer rising. Actually, Cancer rising individuals may have taking care of siblings when they were young, or hopefully not, but sometimes even parents who have addictions and other mental illness where they can't function. A Cancer child may sometimes just automatically do it, or they may find themselves thrust into that role. And you will tend to have your own children at some point with this combination. And in terms of your attitude towards love, you do have to look at your moon and your Venus signs. I'm trying to do more of the combination of moon and Venus, because I think that can give an insight into a person's love language. But if I just look at it from this perspective, you may find that you really cling to those traditional roles. Like if you get married, like you want one person to be the authority figure, the other person is the more of the caretaker. And if you're a female with this combination, you may feel that real pull, or what would you call it, like a tug of war between having a career and being maybe even like a stay-at-home mother. And so that can be a little bit aggravating, because you may really feel both of those roles and be like, okay, am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? And that's, that there you go with that opposition. So another thing too to keep in mind is that not everybody that has this combination is going to have an official opposition. It has to be within a certain degree span, close to 180 degrees. But let's say you do have it. I mean, you could have this thing where, I think this could occur anyway, just because of the two signs that are involved. But just like riffing off of the hard angle of the sun and ascendant, where you do feel like the way that you interact with others is not really your true self. Now, obviously, your true self isn't like your sun sign, because your sun sign is just from this lifetime. And your true self would be beyond any lifetime, if you think about it. Because if you believe in reincarnation, you know that you live many lifetimes, so it's not just about one lifetime. But in any case, the point is you might still feel a little bit frustrated because you feel as though you're trying to you're trying to be understood by other people, but there may be this contradictory part of yourself that seems so different. Like you seem so emotional, and then you can have that very detached side to yourself that comes out very strongly in private, or after getting familiar with someone. Okay, well, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.